Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to episode 4 in the series on how you guys can learn how to, learn FiveM coding and FiveM scripting. So, in today's video, what we're going to actually start doing is creating our first actual resource. So, what this resource is going to be is a basic, simple teleport system. So, basically, what we're going to do is we're going to be making a simple system that allows you to open a config file, add as many teleporters that you want inside of the config file, and then you're going to be able to basically go up to the points and teleport to the points. So I like to go over this script first anytime I'm teaching people how to, start developing, because it kind of goes over the basics of everything and ties everything that we've been learning together, right? It's going to learn, it's going to be having your configuration file. It's going to be going over loops. It's going to be going over functions and so on. So without any further ado, let's go and get into it. So first things first, what we're going to do is we're going to head over to our FiveM resources. And we're going to create a new file or a new folder in here. We're just going to call this teleport. You can call it literally whatever you want. From there, we're going to open it, and we're going to right click and we're going to hit show more options and press open with code. If you don't have open with code, it's because you don't have Visual Studio Code installed. If you go back and watch my first video, you can actually learn how to actually create and install Visual Studio Code properly. So you see how to do episode 1 in the series. So once you open it in Visual Studio Code, first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a new file up here and type fxmanifest.lua. Then we're going to create a new config.lua. Then we're going to create a new folder called clients. And then we're going to open that client folder and we're going to make a new client.lua. So this is basically all the files we're going to be needing. We're going to have a client sided, a configuration file, and then our fx manifest. So our fx manifest is going to load everything. So in fx manifest, we can actually go in here and type fx and then press enter. If this doesn't work for you, it's because you don't have the correct extensions installed. Again, go back to episode 1 where it'll walk you through the extensions that I have and how you can install them yourself. So once you have this, we're going to go and put author as trace. You can fill this out, whatever. We're not going to have any server-side scripts in this. We're just going to go and remove that. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put clients and then a / clients.lua. So what the client and then the / does is actually load something inside of a folder, right? So if you notice, we have a client and then we have our client.lua instead of it just being client.lua. So we have to load it via client, a / and then client.lua. Then we have our config. So we're just going to go ahead and do shared _ script. And then we're just going to do config.lua. So now both of these should be loaded in properly. So now the first thing we're going to do is go and create our configuration file. I just start with configuration files because it kind of lines out the rest of the script, right? You can start with the actual coding, but I first like to write out the config of how I want it to be configured. Then I can go in the back end and write the actual code for it, right? I've worked with some of the top servers on FiveM, and one of the things that many of them can relate in is not having a good gang system. That's why for the past few months, we've worked on creating the absolute best gang system for your FiveM server. It works with all server types, all frameworks. It comes with an administration panel so you can create and manage all your gangs in your server easily. A gang management panel so gang owners can actually manage their gang properly. Drug zones, turfs, gang wars, stashes, leaderboards, and so much more. Everything's fully customizable from every single zone to colors to the UI to the text and everything in between. If you're interested, make sure you go check it out. It's in the first link in the description below. So what we're going to do is we're going to do config equals a empty array. And then from there, we can do .config.locations. And then what we can actually do is we can come in here and we can go ahead and set a key with a whole bunch of data inside of it. So what this is going to do is I want this to basically be a title. So I can call it, factory. I can call it literally whatever. And then whenever I walk up to the point, it's going to say teleport to, and then have whatever this is inside of it display. So for example, we're going to put factory, right? So again, I wanted them to walk up to a point. It's going to say press E to teleport inside a factory. And so that's what we're going to do for that. We're going to have basically a title right here. From there, what I'm going to want chords. And this is going to be another table because we're going to need 4 points. We're going to need the actual teleport chord where you actually walk up, where's that point, and press E on. Then we need the landing chords of where do you land when you do teleport on that. Then we need an exit chord, where's the exit marker. Then when you press E on that exit marker, where do you land after you exit, right? So to do that, I can go ahead and do, entrance equals another table. And we're going to break that down again. We're going to do point, and this is going to just be an actor vector 3 for now. We're going to do 0, 0, 0. And then we're going to do landing. And we're going to make this a vector 4, which is going to be basically in FiveM, there's, you have your X coordinate, your Y coordinate, and your Z coordinate. We're going to be basically teleporting them to our X coordinate, our Y coordinate, our Z coordinate, and heading. So heading is going to be the way your player is facing. So if you want them to load in a certain way and already be facing a certain way, that's what a vector 4 is going to do. So we can actually pass that right in here. So then we're basically going to do the same thing for exit. We're going to have exit and we're going to have point and landing. So now whenever I wanted to add more teleportations, I can literally just, go down here and then put one called literally whatever. I can call it warehouse, and then I can do this, right? And so now what this is going to do is I can basically create as many teleport locations as I want in this file, and it's going to automatically add them every time. So I don't got to even touch anything in the actual source code in the client.lua. Now we need to actually go create this and make it work. So first things first, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to go into our client.lua, and we're going to go ahead and do a create thread. So basically what a create thread is, and it's going to basically say run all of this in sequence, right? So first things first, we need to actually grab our config.locations. So we're going to go back in here. We're going to do for, and then we're going to do title and location in pairs, config.locations, do, and then we're going to put a empty note and then put end. So what this is gonna do is going to loop over our entire config. If you go back to episode 2, we actually went over, loops, or no, we did it in episode 1. So in episode 1, we went over, the basics of Lua, which are gonna be loops, which is basically this. So what we're getting is the title, which is gonna be this here, and then we're getting the location, which is gonna be all of this inside of the actual, table. So what this is gonna do is basically gonna loop over every single one in here. So right now we're looped twice because there's 2 things in here. If I copy this down, it would loop 3 times, and then it would do 4, and then it would be 5, right? So again, right now it's going to loop over both of these because there's only 2 in here. So then what we can do is we can actually just do print load teleport location, and then we're going to do dot title. So what we're going to go ahead and do now is we're actually going to go back in our game and we're going to start our resources just to make sure that we're getting to this point where it's actually going to say it's going to load both of our resources. So we know the client's working, the config's working, and we're able to actually loop the config correctly, right? So it's something in coding you're going to want to do as you're coding scripts. You're going to want to do a little bit. So it's something you're going to want to do when you're doing scripts. You're going to want to code a little bit, test it, code a little bit, test it. You don't want to code everything out right and then go test it because you're going to, if there is anything broken, you're going to get lost. So now to actually start it properly, all you have to do is type refresh. Again, refresh is going to scan all of our resources, update all of our resources because we just made it live. So then what we can do is we can just do ensure teleport. Right? So then we see right here, load teleport location factory, load teleport location warehouse. So now with that information, we know that the client's loading properly, the config is loading properly, and now what we need to do is just finish our actual code, right? But first, let me update the point and landings because I need to make it actually work. So let's say I just want you to teleport right here at this location. What we're going to do is we're going to open TX admin. We're going to copy our chords. We're then going to go back to our entrance. We're going to paste the chords here. So this is going to be where we come up here. We're going to come up to right here and press E. After we press E, let's say we want to make it teleport on top of this roof. We'll come up here and copy these chords. Boom. So let's say we wanted to make it face the road though. Oh, let's say when you teleport up here, we want them to load and actually face the road. We can actually face the road and recopy the chords. And then what it's going to do is if you actually look here, it'll change the heading. So depending on which way you're looking, it'll change the heading automatically. And again, we're going to want them to teleport up here and be facing the road. So we'll copy the chords like that. Then let's say we want them to go over right here to this wall and we want them to press E and teleport back down. So we can just copy this. We can go here to point. Then we can go back down on the ground floor. And let's say we want them to teleport right here. Then we can just do copy chords. And then we'll go ahead and paste that here. So again, what they're going to do is they're going to walk up to that one point, press E. It's going to teleport them on the roof. When they're on the roof, there's going to be another point where they can press E and it'll teleport them back down off of the roof. So now to actually make this work, what we can actually do is come back in here and we can go ahead and do local entrance equals location.chords.entrance. So what this is going to do is it's going to get our chords, entrance, and that's how we can kind of filter down inside of our table, right? Because we're going to have chords, then we're going to have entrance, and we're going to have point. So what we're going to do is we're going to do local entrance, which is going to create a nice variable. Then we're going to do location.chords, which location.chords would be right here. Then we're going to do dot entrance, and that's going to be right here. So now what this variable is going to is going to have all of this inside of that table, inside of that variable. So now we can reference dot point or dot landing, and we're able to get these chords every time very easily. So we're going to do the same thing with the exit. Local exit equals location.chords.exit. Again, same thing, or just grabbing this instead in that variable. So now what we can actually do is we can take this point here and we can actually draw a marker there and then add the logic to where they can go and press E to actually teleport. So to do that, what we can do is we can go ahead and first we need to check the chords, right? We need to check the distance between the two because we don't want to draw the marker across the entire world because it's going to be very unoptimized. Plus, you don't want a marker showing all the way across the world. You only want it to show if they're actually close to the close to the actual point, right? So to do that, what we can do is we can do local my ped equals player ped ID. So first we have to reference what do we want to get the chords of? We want to get the chords of our actual player here, right? So that's why we're going to do local player played. Then we're going to do local my chords equals get entity chords my ped. So now we're going to be getting the chords of our player. Then what we can do is we can do local entrance dist is hashtag my chords minus entrance dot point. So what this is going to do is it's going to get the distance between my chords and the actual entrance point. We can also go ahead and get the local exit distance as well, and then we can go ahead and just print both of these distances so that way we know if everything's working properly. Again, so kind of breaking this down, we're going to loop through our entire table, right? Then we're going to find chords, which is going to be this right here. We're going to break it down into this, and then we're going to go into entrance, which we go dot entrance. Then we have one that's also getting our exit, so dot exit. Then we're getting our player, right, our ped. Then we're getting the chords of our ped. Then we're checking the distance between our chords and the entrance and our chords and the exit. Then what we're going to do is we're just going to print the distance to make sure it's all working properly. So we're going to come back in game, press F8, we're going to type clear, and we're just going to restart our teleport script by doing ensure teleport, right? So now if you actually see here, factory entrance distance 2, factory exit distance 15, warehouse entrance distance, blah, all right? So now what we can do is we can actually add checks to these to say, okay, well, if they're this close, then we'll go ahead and continue. If they're not this close, then we won't do anything, right? So to do that, what we can do is we can do entrance distance. We'll do if entrance distance is, let's say, less than 15.0, then we'll do something. If the exit distance is less than 15, then we'll do something, right? We can go ahead and remove these prints. But if you actually notice something, right, it's only going to check this one time. Why? Because we don't have it in a loop, which basically means it's only going to run this one time. That means if I actually do approach the chords, it's not going to update. So to fix that, we have to do something called a infinite loop, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to take all of this. We're going to press Control X. What that's going to do is cut it so we can just paste it back when we need it. Then we're going to type while true do. Then we're going to put an empty note, and then we're going to put end. Now, what this is going to do is it's going to be running a loop constantly, 24/7. The entire time on the client, this loop's always going to be ran. So then what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to add a weight in here. We're going to add a weight of 1,000. The reason a weight of 1,000 is needed is because now, if we actually come in here, we'll just do print example. We can actually restart the script, and you're going to be able to see this every 1 second. It's going to FiveM natives. You can again, loops are needed because when we're checking a natives for chords distance, we need it to check every about 1 second to 2 seconds to see, okay, are they close enough now? No. Are they close enough now? No. Are they close enough now? No. So basically, what we need to be able to loop it through because we need to be checking every time. So we don't want the chords that right now it would draw on top of our player. We don't want it to draw. So then what we can do is just paste our code back in right where our entrance is. Right. So to do that, what we can do is we can just. So now what it's going to do is it's going to run this code every 1 second. Dots, right, points. So now if they're going to get close, we can do something. If they're going to get close to Y, we can do something. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to we can actually remove this +2 because we don't want to make it go up any. So again, now what it's going to do is it's going to draw a marker right at our entrance location. Then we're going to copy this and we're going to just paste it down here so we can actually draw a marker right at our exit, right? So now if we come in game, another thing you're going to notice if we come in game, we actually restart this, is it's going to be kind of flashing. And the reason it's going to be flashing is because we're only going to be drawing the marker every 1 second, right? So you see it for a second, it goes away. See it for a second, it goes away. So the reason is because we have a weight of 1,000. When you're drawing markers, we need to be showing every single frame. So to do that, you could either make this weight 0, right? So if you do weight 0 and then you come back in game and you restart this, it'll always show. But the reason this is bad is because even if you aren't near it, it's always going to be looping every frame, which makes it super unoptimized. You only want it to loop every single frame when you're actually near the marker. If you're not near the marker, it can only loop every 1 second. That's fine. But if you're near the marker, we want it to actually update and only show every 0 seconds. So to do that, we can actually move the weight to a variable. So we can do local wait time equals 1,000. Grab this variable and just put it in here. So then what it's going to do is by default, it's going to be doing a wait time of 1 second. But if the chords or if the distance is less than 15, we can actually just do this, which equals 0. And what it's going to do is it's going to update the variable to make the wait time 0. So again, what we're doing is if we're near it, we're going to be making the wait time every frame. So that way it'll draw the marker properly. If they're not near it, it'll wait it'll wait 1,000, which is wait 1 second. So it only loops over this every 1 second. So the optimization isn't destroyed, right? And this is very important because, if you only do this one time, if you have a wait 0 one time, it's not going to be that big a deal. But if you're making every single script, you're adding a whole bunch of wait zeros, it's going to be super unoptimized. This is the key thing when it comes to, servers and keeping your server optimized, is making sure you keep the frames, making sure you're keeping loops that aren't going through every single frame. Another thing you can do too is if you don't need the cores to update every 1 second, you can make this every 5 seconds. So again, just kind of use some logic here. Do you need something to be updating every single second, or can it update every 5 seconds, or can it update every 10 seconds, whatever? For now, we're just going to keep it at 1 second. Hopefully that kind of makes sense when we kind of broke it down. Because now if we come in game and we actually restart this, what we can do is we can see it's still drawing. But to make this kind of more clear, if we just add a test print in here, if we just do print testing, right? Oh, we restart our script, you're gonna see it spamming the console, right? You can scroll up, it's just spamming the console because it's going through every frame. But if we actually no clip away, you're gonna see the number one, you're gonna see the marker disappear, right? So we get close, the marker is gonna show. Then we back up, we get out of that distance, and it's not gonna show anymore. And if we actually press F8, you can actually see if you clear this, it's going to be printing every 1 second. So if we wait a second, or wait, no, it's not going to print every second because it's we're not in the distance. So if we actually take this out, we put it outside of the if statement. Sorry, we restart this again. You're going to see it printing every 1 second, right? Boom, 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 boom. So now if we actually get close to it and the marker starts drawing, then it's going to be printing every 1 second. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. Sorry, I don't know why I left it in the if statement. That was stupid of me. So now basically what we do, if we break this down even further, we can do other things if if we're inside the distance, or we can do other things if we're inside this distance. So what we can do is now we need it to make it where when you actually approach the marker, right, it's going to say press E to teleport or whatever. So to do that, what we can do is we can do another if statement. We can do if entrance distance is 1.5 or less, which 1.5 is going to be basically right up on it. Then we're going to be showing press input underscore context, which is going to be the E key. So once we add another if statement in here, basically saying if the entranceness is less than 1.5, basically saying, okay, if we're right up on the marker, what we want to do is we want it to actually show press E to do something, right? So we want to be like, press E to teleport here, or press E to do whatever. So to do that is we're going to need a little bit more code to actually make it where we can have a pop-up. So where it's going to say, hey, press E to actually teleport, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to create a function. We're going to come up here and we're going to do local function show help text, and then we're going to pass a string, and then we're going to pass these natives here. Just copy these natives. If you want to go through and figure out why these natives work or why they do that, you can. But basically what these natives are going to do is display a little help text in the top left corner of the screen. Again, you can just copy this function. There's no need to really kind of break it down. It's kind of a basic function of, hey, we're going to call this and it's going to show something. So to show you what I mean, if we actually come down here, we do show help text and we just pass, press me. Then we come back in game and we restart the script. It's actually going, if you see in the top left, let me clear the chat, it says press me, right? And then we get away from the marker, it goes away, we come up to the marker and it shows again. So what we can actually do is you can come in here, you can do press, if you do squiggly line, then input, and it all has to be capital, so input underscore context with another squiggly line to enter. Then we come back in game and we actually restart this again. We clear this. You're going to see it says press E to enter, right? Now you can keep it as this. If you want that to be the text, that's fine. But if you recall back in the beginning, I want to say press E to enter factory or whatever we have in the configuration here. So to do that, we can just do press E to enter, add an empty space, and then we can just do dot title. Now we come back in game and restart this. We clear this again. Press E to enter factory. Right. Well, now we need to put the, so we can go back in here and put the, and again, you got to make sure you put an empty space. If you don't put an empty space, it's going to be all bunched up, right? As you see, there's no space. If you put an empty space here, come in, restart this, clear these out, and then as you see, it says press E to enter the factory. We come back in our config file, we make factory. Let's say we make factory office. We come back in game and we restart this again. It's going to say press E to enter the office. So now all of that logic is done. So now all we have to do now is make when we press E, it's going to actually teleport us to the correct location, right? And again, if you walk away, it's gonna hide that. And if you come back, it's gonna say press E again. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually teleport our ped when they actually press E to actually teleport them to the locations. So to do that, we need to break it down. We need to basically, number one is add a check of, hey, when the E key is pressed, let's do something. Then then we need to say, okay, when the E key is pressed, let's teleport our player to these chords. So to do that, what we're gonna do is we're gonna add a check to see if they actually press the key. So we're gonna do if is control just pressed 038, then do something end. Well, end. So if we actually look up is control just pressed on the FiveM natives, what you're actually going to see is you're going to be able to see, okay, this is basically a native to check when a key is pressed, right? To get a list of all the keys, you can actually press enable all actions. Or sorry, no, you can hit control ID here, and it's going to tell you what all the different IDs are. So if we scroll down to 38, you're actually going to see this input underscore pickup, which is E, right? Let's say you want to check if the W key is pressed, well, that's 32. If you want to check if the B key is pressed, that's 29, and so on. So this is very handy. You're going to be using this a lot as you code more, you're going to get used to it, right? I already know off the top of my head 38 was E because I use it always. So that's why we use 38 because it's going to represent E. So we go back to our code. So after we press E, it's going to say do something. But for now, what we're going to do is we're going to make it do print just pressed E. Now we come back in game. We're going to restart this. We're going to press E and we're going to press F8. And as you see, it's going to say just pressed E. So now if we just spam press it, you're going to see it every time it's going to print something here to the console. So now everything's working properly. Now all we have to do is make it teleport our actual player. So now to do that, first thing we need to do is we need to do set entity chords, set entity chords, and then we need to specify our player. So if we actually go into the FiveM natives, and again, I already know all of these natives off the top of my head. If you're actually writing this from scratch, you're probably going to have to come into the natives and look up, you're gonna have to look up teleports. Oh, that's not the native. You're gonna have to look up chords, and then you have to keep going through here until you figure out, okay, well, set entity chords is what you need, right? So again, I've already made the script a billion times, so I already know that set entity chords is what we need. But if you're actually writing a script you haven't written a billion times, then obviously you're gonna need to actually find the natives, and so you would just do that by coming in here and looking around. So if you actually look at set entity chords, it's going to need a few different parameters. It's going to need the entity that we're setting the chords to. And then we have to specify the x coordinate, the y coordinate, the z coordinate, and then the rest don't really matter, but you can read through them if you want. Right, alive is unused by the game, dead flag whether to disable physics for dead peds, and so on. But the main, 3 or 4 we're going to need are the entity and then the x, y, and z. So if we come back in game and we just do my ped, right, because we already have my ped specified up here, my ped, and then what we can do is we can just do the entrance dots landing dot x dot y dot z, right? So it's going to basically set it's going to set entity chords from my player at the entrance landing dot x, y, and z, which is going to be right here, the landing x, y, and z. But if you notice, we haven't been able to set our heading yet. So to do that, it's a different native. You have to do set entity heading. And basically it's the same thing. You do my ped, and then you do entrance.location.w. So W is going to be your heading. It's going to be anything in the fourth chords here. So again, this is going to be your X, this is going to be Y, this is going to be Z, and this is going to be W. So again, kind of breaking these down, you press E, it's going to set our chords here, and this is going to set the entity's pet or the entity's heading, so it's facing the actual correct way as well. So if we come back in game, we restart this, and we come up here and we press E. As you see, it now teleports us properly. And then you have our exit point up here, but if you notice, we can actually come up to it and nothing actually comes up. We can't press E to teleport. So what we can actually do is just kind of copy and paste this logic. So what we can do is really just copy this, come back down here, and paste this here. And then we're going to change press input exit or press input context to exit, right, instead of enter the title. And then we can literally just come in here and we just need to change entrance to exit. So first off, we got to change the chords here. So we need to check the exit distance, not the entrance distance. Then we need to change this to exit, 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 right? So we don't want entrance, we want the exit chords, not the entrance chords this time. Then we just come in here, we restart this, and boom, press E, right? If we clear this, press E to exit the office. We press E, comes down here. Come over here and press E to enter the office, and we teleport up here. So it's a pretty self-explanatory script. It's very nice. This is a script that I think a lot of servers like, is just having a simple teleport script system. So again, now you can literally come in here and you can create as many different teleport locations as you want. You don't even have to edit the source code anymore, right? That's the awesome thing about having a config file, because now if you want to add more teleport points, you just open the config file and copy and paste and change chords. You never have to touch the client.lua again unless you want to change the way the markers look, or you want to change the text, or you want to do something fancy. Then you would never need to open the actual source code again. So hopefully this kind of makes sense. Hopefully this kind of broke down the, how you can actually go about making a script, going about breaking it down by going, okay, well, what's needed first? Let's status check for this first. And then you just basically break it down by down. Again, if you're wanting it to where you press E to teleport on top of a roof, you have to break that down. Okay, well, first you need to check, if the player presses E. After they press E, you need to figure out how you can actually set the entities chords and so on. Anyway, if you guys want episode 5, make sure you guys like and subscribe, and I'll get episode 5 out as soon as possible. We'll go over, how we can actually get the client and the server to start communicating properly, and we'll make another script that's kind of more advanced, going through, syncing to multiple players and things like that. This is, again, this kind of a basic, simple script, but I think it's a very good start to scripting. Anyway, hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. See you later.